this one, I have posted some of these photos. This is an old rolling mill where this structure still exists in Long Island, New York. And one of my customers asked me to design up a model for it. The one you're looking at is an N scale version of the model. And many of you probably know Frank. He's up in New York. He's an unbelievably talented N scale modeler, which personally I don't know anybody can work in that scale. But what you're looking at here is the first design that I put together in N scale of this whole structure, and he built up this model. And he's basically building up the test build for me, and I'm going to actually get this as my display model, and then he's got himself another one for himself. But I'll just kind of peruse through some of the photos. Again, this structure exists on Long Island. It's obviously abandoned at this time. Simple board and batten siding with a nice little cupola on the top for the windmill. So the cool thing is the design of the windmill, it's a layered approach with the grid and then some supports on the back, and you're actually going to get some very, very lightweight fabric material, if you will, for the windmill wings themselves. Frank's version of this, the windmill actually spins, but for my version, I asked them to glue it on there tight so it wouldn't fall off during transport and whatnot. So this is a kind of a sneak peek of this little structure. I thought it was a fun little build. It comes with a little garage on the side. I'll have some fencing in there. So that's going to be called Saladino's Mill. I'm naming it after Frank, who built this up for me. Let's see. The next one I'll show is, all right, let's go to Del Mar Station. This is a passenger station. It's brick. For some reason, I've kind of gotten myself a name for myself in the model, doing a lot of brick structures. Some of you have seen the design work I did and posted on my Facebook page just as a sneak preview, but here it is all built up. I have a friend here locally in the Asheville area who built this one for me. He's a really talented builder as well. This is a structure that used to exist in Del Mar, Delaware, and it doesn't exist anymore, but there are a few photos of it. And the reason why I did this one is a customer came to me and asked me to build this structure because he has a friend an older gentleman who lived in Del Mar that was familiar with this building when it was actually servicing passengers, and the guy contacted me to design a structure for him, and he built it up for him and gave it to him for his birthday. So it's a pretty unique little structure. It's actually quite a large structure with all that brickwork and all that detail on the roof. It's going to be a fairly expensive kit, but for somebody who's really interested in challenging themselves, it'd be a fun kit to do. The next one is another brick structure, and this is another customer that came and asked me to do a custom structure. This is Fort Erie Station up in, I think it's in Canada actually, if I remember right. Again, kind of a unique building. It's got a lot of brickwork. It's got the bay window. It's got all the corner details with the brickwork, all the details around the windows. So I do that with raised details. And then it's got the little addition on the side there, made out of clapboard siding. So that's Fort Erie Station, and this one again, my friend here in the Asheville area built up the prototype for me. If you haven't caught on, I'm using some help on building up some of these structures just because I'm so busy running the laser and doing design work, and I don't have a lot of time to build things these days. Let's see. So that was Del Mar and Fort Erie. Let's look at Ashley. Here's another one, another brick structure. Imagine that. This one's up in Illinois, Ashley, Illinois. And again, a customer contacted me about doing this structure. And this one, the design work is done, and my buddy up here in Asheville is building it for me right now. But I'll show you a sneak peek of the CAD work. I like to share my CAD work just because it gives you a little sneak preview to the method of my madness. I do all my work in 2D CAD. I do it basically as a piece by piece assembly. I use a lot of construction lines. It's probably old school CAD. Dylan would probably laugh at me. But it's old school CAD design work. And at the end of the day, I end up with a bill of materials of all the different pieces and parts. And then I build that into laser cut cards and sheets that go into the kit. So this one will have a base with a scribed wood base. It has brick walls, has the roof cards, has all the little raised brick details, all the laser cut windows and doors. So this is kind of a sneak preview as to what my finished design work looks like. What else we got in here? Oh, here's another sneak preview. This one is still on the design table. It is not finished. It is not cut out yet. But this is a tribute to the Guthrie family. For those of you who remember the Guthrie family are the ones that ran RDA, Railway Design Associates, for 30 years. And this is the business that I bought in December. And talking with my buddy Jeff Grove, he and I talked about trying to put together a tribute kit to the Guthrie family. And, you know, Jeff always has things for me to do. So this was another case of something for me to do based on his suggestion. But what I'm going to do here is a combination of the plastic injection molded pieces that the RDA business came with, plus some laser cut additions. So the little lean-to on the left-hand side is going to be all laser cut. All the windows and doors to that little lean-to will be laser cut. I will have a water wheel in here with a flue to lead into that water wheel. I'll have a dam. The lower level basement, if you will be laser cut. In the middle here, I've been experimenting with something. I have been working on expanded metal, laser cut expanded metal platforms. If you can imagine that. I have the product ready to go, and this will be included in this kit as well, but I'll also sell those as separate laser cut details. But then when you look at the overall plan view down here at the bottom, you can see it's a fairly large structure. I also have some silos that I want to put in here. So those would be, I haven't decided how I'm going to do the silos yet, but there'll be silos. There'll be a big dock on the front corner here, the lean-to, the large injection molded structure, the dam, the water wheel. So one of these days, I'm going to finish the design work and get this thing cut out and then find somebody to build the prototype for me, or the test build. But that's, look for that one sometime, who knows when. Another one of the recent releases was, again, from the Railway Design Associates lineup. I talked about this actually when I did the podcast with the Wiley boys. They had asked about some background kits. And for those who remember the Fisherman's Co-op, it's a huge structure. Wouldn't it make a great background? So basically I used the same components and made a background kit out of it. And you've got some flexibility on the depth just based on how much you cut up this one end wall. You can cut it to whatever depth you want, and then adjust the roof panels, and you get yourself a nice shallow relief background structure. Pretty long structure. It's like 16 inches long. You can always cut it short because it's made out of 4 pieces. The other thing that I managed to get, which I'm not showing in this build, but I've got some downspouts that folks can buy and add to cover up these seams. So that'll be a nice option for folks to add to their kit. Let's see. So that's one of the new items. Trying to get this thing out of the way. All right. think that's everything that's on my kind of list of sneak peeks. Any questions on any of the sneak peeks? For those of you who are familiar with my website, that's kind of the entry page, and I offer laser cut components, structure kits in N scale, HO scale, S scale, O scale, and even some of the larger scales, G scale and 1 to 35th scale, F scale. And I do a lot of custom stuff based on request. But if we run through, let's just run through some of the HO scale items under the new items tab. I'm always looking to add different window and door designs. And this particular one here was based on a request for some rolling freight doors, rolling barn doors. And so I drew up a sheet of some different varieties of freight doors and barn doors with some transom windows and the rolling hardware, lots of distress into the wall itself. My plan is to have some more versions of these types of doors. So this is 4072, and I've got a 4071 and a 4073 kind of placeholder reserved for 2 more sets of different designed large freight doors and rolling doors and whatnot. I had gotten some requests for asbestos siding. So similar to roof shingles, imagine some asbestos siding strips that you would apply on the wall rather than the roof. I've got 3 different designs. I've got the wave pattern, I've got a step pattern, and I've got a 24 by 12 board pattern. And these have sold fairly well since I've released them. And again, you can get them on all the different colors, just like the roof shingles. And they apply just like roof shingles. And we can enlarge these, and you can see this is the step pattern. I think this asbestos style siding was supposed to mimic real wood shingles, but of course it's made out of asbestos. But so that's, you know, one of the newer items that I released. And then I also got a request for this decorative tin wall siding. And this is based on a structure that the customer was building. And he had this prototype photos of this decorative tin pattern. It's like an upside down Y. So again, these are just like shingle strips. Each individual strip you'd apply, you do a small overlap, and you apply this to your walls. And so the blue lines are engraved. So they're laser etched, not cut through. So it gives you that pattern. Kind of an interesting product. He's the only one that's bought any so far, but that's because he had it for his project. I recently released 8 4x8 pallets. I've always had 4x4 and 48 by 40 inch wood pallets. Now I've added 4x8, 4 foot by 8 foot. The same customer that wanted the decorative tin siding wanted these roof gutters, and you've probably seen these on prototype structures. But it's actually this little straight piece here with all these little wedges in there, and you cut them to size and you attach the wedges, and then you just run it around the perimeter of your roof. The sheet that I offer has 3 different angles for the wedges. So depending on the angle of your roof, you could alter the angle of the roof gutter. Again, custom request. I'll do whatever you want. I can figure it out, and I throw it on my website. A lot of these other structures aren't really necessarily new. I've been trying to get time to work on the old Rusty Stumps structures. I bought that business a couple years ago. I just recently finished up the revisions to the HO scale 3-stall garage, so that's released. Probably some of the exciting stuff that I'm working on with Walt at Rusty Stumps are some of these industrial systems. The rooftop HVAC, the original one's been on the market from when Walt at Rusty Stumps released it several years ago. So I have that, but now we've come up with a new one And this one is a much heavier system. It's got more components, but it's all 3D printed stuff and styrene tubing and whatnot. And this one is just released within the last week or so, couple of weeks. And it's pretty exciting. That's one of the newer items. But I have several others in the works. Here's another one, this wall-mounted dust cyclone system. So this was a casting that Walt had, but what I wanted to do was make a kit out of it. So we put some more of those fittings and the styrene tube, and now you have a whole kit to do a wall-mounted dust cyclone system. So that's one that's also just recently released. I have 2 more versions of dust cyclone systems that are in the works together with Walt. One's going to be a roof-mounted system, and then the last one will be a dust collection box that will be another 3D printed casting that will be an external feature as part of your system. So keep your eyes out on the lookout for that one. I've also got 2 more wall-mounted, I'll call it exhaust systems, that are just exterior fittings and styrene square tube with the rooftop exhaust. So I have 2 of those in the works. And I'm hoping to continue to package some of these different fittings and whatnot for rooftop details, because everybody likes rooftop details. So I'm trying to kind of create a lineup of those. The next lineup, these are all RDA structures that I've re-released. I've been steadily working through those. It's a lot of work, right? Rewriting the instructions. If anybody's had an RDA kit, you know that the assembly instructions could use a little bit of help. So that's what I've been doing. I've been working on redoing all of those. I will concentrate here on the stone roundhouse though. The stone roundhouse is a big structure, but it really needed a lot of work. I completely redesigned the interior floor, the entire roof structure, and all the support, the interior support. It's all laser cut components now, whereas before they were styrene. Now it's laser cut illustration board and scribed wood. So this kit is almost brand new except for the perimeter walls. And I redid completely the instructions for this because it really needed some help. I've done some CAD graphics that help with assembly and whatnot. So I've sold a few of those, which is nice because it was expensive. It's a fairly expensive kit, but it's a nice little roundhouse. Oh, and I'm in the process of adding add-on stalls. So if you buy a 3-stall roundhouse and you want 4 or 5 or 6 stalls, I'm going to have an add-on stall by stall add-on kit, which will just drop right into the 3-stall structure, just right in the middle, because they go together like puzzle pieces. Just a few other detail parts that are out here. I do offer scratch builders parts for folks who want stone walls. Again, this is RDA casting stuff. Some of the plaster castings that I offer in the kits are also available by themselves. Brick chimneys, the stone dock. But those are just things that I'm trying to offer up for folks because a lot of people like to do this scratch building stuff. So that's about it for new items. Since we got Jim and Dylan on the line, I'll look at the O-scale list. I don't know who other O-scalers are out there. But I do get a lot of requests for custom windows and doors. And so I do those for the customer, and then I'll also throw them out there on my website. These are cool. These big Gothic windows. I mean, these are huge, right? But somebody had sent me a photo with some dimensions that they were looking for, and I went and drew them up in CAD. And you get these nice, cool Gothic windows. I think the person said they were actually doing a castle, not for the model railroad industry, but for the gaming industry. So they asked for some Gothic windows. All the same asbestos siding strips and the 4x8 pallets. And then there is also the rooftop HVAC and then another one of the Rusty Stumps kits, the dock hoist. So at this time, those other industrial systems, right now I'm going to just stick to HO scale. When you start doing those 3D castings in O scale, they get very expensive. So you know, if there's a huge demand for them, I can talk with Walt about upsizing them. But the problem is I have to make the investment in the inventory, and that becomes a little bit of a burden. So at least for now, it'll be HO scale for those other ones.
Steve, I have
So
a
that's
question,
pretty
if
much
that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Greg.
And I've had to make a decision on this a couple of times when I've ordered some of your detailed parts. When you have stuff that's made out of the RC board, it'll come in an 016 and an 022 thickness. I've never known which to pick, so I just flipped a coin or something. What in modeling are the differences between the two thicknesses? Why would you pick one or the other?
Well, you know, the 022 is going to be a little bit heavier, a little more rigid. But, you know, when you get into the larger scales like S scale and O scale, I could see using the 022. But in anything smaller, in HO scale, I definitely recommend the 16 thousandths. It's kind of strange. They're really the same material, but the 16 thousandths is the ivory color, and the 22 thousandths is the dark brown color. I personally think that the ivory color takes the paint a little bit better.
Okay.
I don't know. I prefer to work with the 16 thousandths. And then when you start to layer them up, because a lot of times they're layered assemblies, I definitely prefer the 16 thousandths because it just doesn't get so thick. It stays prototypically thin. Well, and Greg, and you know, I'm looking at your background, and I know you've got that beautiful station on your background photo, and that thing was all 16 thousandths. Yeah, that's one of my greatest accomplishments, I guess. So for those who don't know, that's in West Virginia, Elkins, in Greg's background, and that's probably the HO scale version. But I did all that design work for Jeff at Carolina Craftsman Kits for the HO scale and the O scale version of Elkins Station. But all of those windows and doors, Greg, are 16 thousandths RC board, laser board that are layered up in 2 or 3 layers, depending on how they went together. And I just think that that's the right size for especially HO scale. But even the O scale one is using 16 thousandths.
All right, I'll stay with 16 from now on. Thanks.
Sure. Anybody else have questions? Anything you want to see special on the website? Because I know I've used up my time, Chris. So
no biggie. I was just concerned as long as we didn't get cut off. That was my main concern. All right.
I kind of reviewed what I was expecting to review in my time allotment, and then open it up to either whatever discussion you wanted to suggest or any questions that folks have for rail scale models.
Now here's a question for you. Is it any coincidence that rail scale models also matches up with your initials?
Well, you know, Chris, you're very observant, and I would say that it is not a coincidence at all.
It's a conspiracy, I tell you.
Yeah, when I was thinking about names. What's that, Greg?
You learned from George Sellius.
Yeah, right. Well, you know, when I was thinking about names for the company, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I really did want to do something with my initials. You know, and everyone's like, oh, rail scale models, that's the same as rail scale miniatures. I'm like, no, it's not. I mean, rail scale miniatures is practically the same as fine scale miniatures. So, I mean, you know, there's only so many words you can use in the hobby for a company name.
Steve, I got a question for you. On the top left, the part 4072.
Yes.
On that vertical to the right, is that like the rail that's the door hangs on? Is that what that is?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
that's to simulate the steel rail that the roller wheels would roll on. And you can see that these little components up here, it's actually intended to give you a little bit of 3-dimensional design so that part of it would actually overlap with that rail.
Mm-hmm. is it designed so that it could operate if it by hand, obviously, or would you need to
No.
build some components to have a pulley or a wheel, maybe a styrene wheel or something?
Yeah, it's not designed to operate, and
Yeah.
with laser cut card stock like this, I'm not sure that would be the best approach.
Right. Okay.
But I guess the other thing you see in this picture, you get a little bit of a glimpse into the laser cutting world. The different colors actually mean things to the laser. The laser I use, the Epilogue, it uses what's called color mapping. And then based on the different color of the design artwork, I can tell the laser to do different things. So for example, all the blue lines, I'm going to set them to be cut through. So that's actual cut all the way through the material. The red lines in this design are scribed lines, meaning they're going to make a scribed line, but they're not going to cut all the way through. And then the green line is also a scribe line, but what I want to do is I want to make that one like thicker, if you will, because it's representing the seams in the boards. So I'll actually use a different setting with the laser for the green lines to make a thicker or wider scribed line. So that's, some of the details of the design work, at least that I do. I don't know what other people do, but and then of course the perimeter is the black line. And the reason why I cut the blue, and then I can also set the sequence of which the laser is going to cut the different colors. And so I'll do all the scribe work first, the green and the red, and then I'll set the blue to cut, and then finally the perimeter to cut the card out. And the reason why I do it in that sequence is the material likes to fold or lift up off the laser bed. And when that happens, the laser gets out of focus and then nothing cuts correctly. So I'm always using weights around the perimeter to keep it flat. And then I'll cut all the interior blue lines and then allow it to cut the shape of the final card out of the material. And then at that point, if it peels, if it floats up off the table, it's no big deal because it's all done. I'm probably giving away too many secrets.
Well, I'm just trying to figure out why is it that, well, I guess it's probably the CAD program you're using, that it's got three different colors?
Well, there's 4 total on this design.
Okay. So is that your depths for your laser cut? Is that what that is?
Right. So for each color, I can set the properties on the laser to do different speed and power settings so therefore they'll either cut through or scribe
Oh, cool.
based on those settings.
Oh,
And so, I have a color scheme that I use, but the Epilogue at least is flexible to use really any color. You can define whatever settings you want, but I've set a standard for myself. Typically blue lines are cut through, red are what I'll call fine scribe, and then something like green is that wider scribe.
Steve, can I ask, when you're doing the CAD design, you can control your depth. In controlling the width of a scribe, like your green lines, can you actually control the width, or do you have to do a double cut for that?
So that's actually, there's a thing called focus. There's a parameter called focus. Okay. And what I do is I take it out of focus. And basically what it's doing is it's raising or lowering the bed by a certain amount. And by making it slightly out of focus, I'm getting a wider line. Man, I'm giving way too many secrets away.
Anybody on here who already has cutting machines probably know those.
But yeah, that's how I do the wider lines. And I'll do that typically when it's a straight board like this. So for example, in O scale, for my brickwork, I do an out of focus mortar line because I want it to be a little bit thicker than like an HO scale mortar line. Any other questions about rail scale model stuff?
No, Steve does all my cuttings for me and design work, and he does a fantastic job.
Thanks, Jack. Yeah, I'm looking at the audience, and I have quite a few customers out there tonight.
Yeah, it's funny. Unfortunately I truncated your introduction, but I was trying to figure out how to describe you, and it's like, well, I started out with, well, for the three of us in this world that don't know who Steve Milley is.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Probably half the audience are customers of mine in one way or another, and they probably don't all know it. Another one of my secrets.
Steve, I got a question for you. Where do
Sure.
you see that you're taking your company from here?
Man, I need about 10 more hours a day of available time. I really am enjoying, so, the laser cut stuff is great. I really enjoy doing laser cut structure design, both for my own structure kits, for other people's structure kits, and even for custom, one-offs for folks. I have a huge backlog, and I got to apologize for the folks that wait. Apparently, when you do custom work, there's a lot of demand, but it is time consuming. So I want to continue to do that. Part of the reason why I bought the RDA business is because I saw an opportunity to kind of expand the audience. There are certainly people in the model railroading hobby that like to build injection molded kits, and there are people who like to build wood structure craftsman kits, and sometimes there's not overlap there. So I felt like the RDA business gave me a much broader audience, and it didn't take any capacity on my laser, which is nice because my laser is running all the time. But the other thing with the RDA business, I saw a lot of opportunity to kind of merge those two worlds a little bit with offering some laser cut, I'll call it enhancements to some of the RDA injection molded structure components. And that's what I want to do more of, is offer, like that one I showed you where it's a core structure is from the RDA components, but then I have a laser cut addition to it. I want to do stuff like that. I'm also going to offer a set of laser cut windows and doors for those RDA kits rather than using the injection molded windows and doors that come with them. Some folks prefer to have a more finer detail in those windows and doors. The other thing I'm getting into is continuing to work with Walt from Rusty Stumps, those industrial 3D printed and resin castings. That's kind of like a brand new market for me. And, fortunately, Walt's been kind enough to offer that up to me, as, he's retired. He's trying not to do as much work, but so far he's been kind enough to continue to work with me until he does find a buyer for his business. So as long as he's willing to do it, I'm going to continue to take advantage of that and offer some unique things there.
Dave, can I ask a question?
Sure.
I know for a number of model manufacturers, you've been kind of an auxiliary cutter when they needed some help or had overflow. Do you ever see yourself in that position where you need to go to somebody else and outsource just some cutting so you can get stuff done?
Well, some people say, why don't you hire somebody to help you? I'm like, well, I like working by myself. I like being self-sufficient. At this point, I really would prefer to keep it in-house. What I really need to do is find a way to operate my two lasers in a more efficient manner rather than just the one. And I guess at some point, I just got to pick and choose what I will and won't do. Unfortunately, I've had to tell some of the folks that come looking for custom structures that my backlog is kind of long right now. So, it's 6 or 8 months out before I can get to anything else new. The reality is it's probably 12 to 18 months before I can take on anything else. I really do have a backlog that's that long. This is a retirement job for me eventually, so it's supposed to be fun, right? Oh, and by the way, I still have a day job.
Maybe that's what gets in the way.
More often than not. I work part-time. The guys that I work for know that I have this going on, and they know that at some point I'm gonna say, hey, listen, I'm done working. I'm gonna do this as best I can, full-time. Call me when you have the rare project that you need me to come and help on, and you can pay me a lot of money.
Cool. All right. Are there any more questions out there for either for Steve or Jim? Sounds like everybody's happy.
Jim, I got a quick question for you. I think it was your greenhouse building.
Yeah,
Did I see a brass decorative piece along the top?
yeah, there's, I use various pieces of brass, different shapes and so forth along the way. The plastic slips between two pieces of brass. So that's how I figured out a way to have it stand up. There's a piece of brass, each section of it down the walls, it just slides right through it. So you got
Do you
a piece of
remember-
brass on both sides of the plexiglass.
Yeah. Do you remember the source of that decorative piece?
I don't. I pick this stuff up, different shows and so forth. If I see something that's unusual, I'll just pick it up. It's not something that I shopped for or anything. It's just something that I had, and I thought, yeah, I'm going to stick it up there.
Jim, can I ask a question?
Sure.
That little solarium or conservatory that you built for your wife, how long did that take you to build?
About a week.
Really? Oh my God.
Well, it took me a while on the internet.
Find your pictures, huh?
Yeah, actually, it's a combination of about four different pictures, but she wanted it large enough because it's all detailed inside. So she picked the different potted plants, and we went to a rug store, carpet store, and they gave me samples. So she was able to get the carpet that she wanted to be able to put on the inside of the solarium and so forth.
Oh, it's beautiful.
I was going to do an article about it, and I thought, nobody's going to be interested in it. So I haven't done one about it, and haven't really showed it to anybody, to tell you the truth. It's just been sitting there because it gave me a way to justify another station that I built in different areas outside of the two cities that I have. And I needed something to justify why the trolleys were going out there.
Well, my wife's a horticulturist, and I know she'd be happy if I could someday build a greenhouse on her layout.
There's something a little different. My layout has, a lot of the stuff that I build you won't see on another layout because it's pictures that I found. I'll draw it up somehow freehand and get it to where it resembles it enough where I can say, yeah, that's pretty good for somebody that's not a draftsman and doesn't really know what he's doing. But I'll take that drawing then and put it in brass and cut it out and bend it and shape it and build it. That to me is the fun of the hobby.
So here's a question for you, Jim. That little combine that you built, was that based off of a certain prototype, or did you just kind of...
No, it's a prototype. It's a New England model.
I thought it looked familiar. It looks like something at Seashore.
It is. Yep.
That little guy.
I got the plans from the museum and scaled them, and that's how it's come out so far.
I
It's,
can't. That looks excellent.
It's got 4 little magic carpets. And the magic carpets I love because I can detail the interior. I don't worry about anything. The interior in that slides out. It's all done with cigar wrapper wood. And then I stain that to try to get it a mahogany color. And so I build the partitions and everything to where I can put the seats in and so forth and the figures. And then I can just lift that out when I get ready to paint it and so forth. And the same for the baggage area. It's another lift out.
I got a feeling I've seen that one in person. Just it looks damn familiar.
You probably have. I fell in love with it. I've wanted to build it for years and years and years, and just never got around to it.
How are you going to paint it?
I'm sorry?
What colors are you going to paint it?
I don't know yet. That's why it hadn't been painted. I really don't know. I'm just about ready to paint it. I've got to put my light fixtures on the inside, and I'm toying with how I'm going to try to light the car. I've got one light in the passenger side now, and it's okay, but I'm not real happy with it, and that's why I haven't painted. I don't know what colors I'm going to paint it yet. Whatever comes out, it won't be a prototype kind of model because everything is lettered for the JN&P Railroad, the Jim, Nancy, and Patrick Railroad, and so I don't worry about whatever hits my fancy, I guess, at the time is what it finally comes out. The roof will be one color, the body will be another color.
I picked up a Diesel a few years back that was a nice dark green or a dark red rather. I think that'd look pretty sharp on that.
Yeah, I think it would too. I think you're right, exactly right. But I scratch build my trolley poles. I hang my own wire and that kind of stuff. The wire is 020 phosphorus bronze. It's been up there now 18 years. Has to be resoldered every once in a while, but it's been up there.
Have you ever used Adlake markers from Tomar Industries?
Have not.
I put some on some cabooses, and I don't know if that's appropriate to put on a trolley or not, but it looked kind of cool if it was.
Yeah, you would. It would. Hardest thing for me on the model was the roof. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pieces, I think, to make it up. That was the hardest part for me to figure out how I wanted to build that roof.
Let's see if we can. Yeah, it does look pretty sharp. All right, anything else? Looks like there's 10 of us left here. I think we're up to about 14 or 15, I thought. So what does everybody think? Is this something that's worth continuing, or are there too many other programs that are just like it?
Yeah, I liked it. Look forward to the next one.
I think it's something good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoy it. I just try to keep a limit on how many different sites I get involved with, and I'd much rather do it like this.
Cool. All right. One of the things I was thinking about was in terms of frequency, how often should we do this? My thought was once a month, but should we have it more often? Is once a month enough? Where do we go with this?
I think like once a month would be good because there
I
are
think
other
once a
ones
month
that
is the
are going
right
on,
frequency.
too. Yeah.
I go with once a month. Just
Yeah.
this weekend, we had Jim on Wednesday. We had the NMRA all day on Saturday. We had Jim Saturday night. This one tonight. It gets to be a lot.
Yeah, and it really depends upon, what guests you're looking for and when they're available. There's quite a number of Zoom meetings that are going on now in the modeling hobby, and I've seen one guy on 2 meetings the same week with 2 different groups. And
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of one of those things that I would like to avoid is I don't want to have the same guys over and over again. I know there's a guy that I've been dealing with up in Vermont because there's a station I've been trying to build. I was trying to talk him into it, and he said no, but I think he would be a great candidate. I know there's a guy, he used to work for RPI on the New England, Berkshire, and Western layout that they had, John Newrich. I'd love to get hold of him. I haven't emailed him yet, but he's one of those guys that I think would be very interesting to talk to, but I'm not sure he would be into this. I did email back and forth a little bit with Bill Gill. I think he'd be awesome as well. I know I've read articles from him and just been blown away by some of the things he has. And like I mentioned earlier, I think Tichy, if we could get a virtual tour of the manufacturing process there, I think that'd be sweet. Maybe northeastern scale models, that sort of thing. But I'd also like to do, take it to a train show, kind of like a Howard Zane or one of those guys. I'd love to go through their layout. Just take us on a tour with your camera and show us what you got.
Yeah.
So if anybody has any ideas, just drop me a text or an email or whatever, and I'll go after them, see what I can do. I
mean, even if it's as simple as like a slideshow of, I know Greg has got all kinds of structures that he's built. I'm sure he's taken pictures of every one of them. Greg, give us a slideshow of all your builds one day. It's as simple as that, really.
I get tongue-tied too easily to show stuff.
Well,
So you don't have to talk, just flip through the pictures.
See if I can do this here.
Jack's going to give us a slideshow of his Ipswich Hobbies creations.
Let me ask you guys a question. What do you see the hobby shows going and so forth? How long do you think that the community of modelers who are 65 plus years old are going to stay away from crowds and so on?
Oh no.
That's a really scary question. I think the fall is going to be still be difficult for the shows. I'm anticipating that Timonium will probably get canceled. I'm pretty sure Springfield would get canceled. With all the
Did you get the email from Scott a few days ago?
Yeah, I did.
With that little podcast?
Oh, that was painful.
I didn't watch the podcast, but he's so conservative with that. I see him canceling it as soon as he gets nervous about it.
I don't know. I got the impression it's kind of 50-50 right now, depending on how the state opens. And frankly, Maryland's been doing better than some states. They've been conservative in opening, but I think in doing that, we're in a better position now. I don't know what that's going to mean in October, but I've got my fingers crossed.
I've already got my orders from my wife. No train shows for the rest of this year, no matter what the governor says.
We're seeing a lot of that, though. Jeff Adams did kind of a straw poll for the Timonium Craftsman Courtyard attendees, and probably 4 out of 5 people said they're not going no matter what.
Yeah.
And
I'm the one that said I'll go.
Yeah.
You're the only one that I saw so far, Chris.
Yeah.
You might.
But that's a real good gauge, though, of where
Courtyard.
people are thinking.
Yeah.
I really think
I'll be there.
I really think these Zoom meetings are going to play a huge part for the rest of this year, at least. I don't know about next year, but for the rest of this year, I think the meetings like this, for both the manufacturers and the modelers, are going to start playing a major, major role in this hobby.
Yeah, well, in terms of exchanging modeling tips and showing what you can create and things like that, Zoom is great, but you can't buy and sell stuff. You know, you still have to go through ordering, and that's fine for new manufacturers, but when you're talking about other stuff, eBay is about the only place you can go. And I know so many people that either have stuff they want to get rid of or want to pick up stuff, and trade shows are just so good at that.
Yeah.
My last
You
trade,
can take the place of those.
yeah, my last train show was New Bern in early March. I bought a lot of stuff there, only to find out that I really have to put it on eBay now. There's no train shows for me to bring the stuff to.
Yeah.
I ended up putting a ton of stuff instead of on eBay. I just put it up on my website because eBay fees are just killing me. It's like 10 cents here, 30 cents here, 40 cents there. It's like every single day I get a bill for something, and it's not much, but it adds up over time. And I just had it. It's like, screw it. I'll just put it on my website and call it a day. If it sells, great. But
Hey, Chris,
anyway.
tell us about this really cool little bridge that you're showing us, because
Yeah,
it looks familiar to me.
Actually, Steve, you cut the first version, and it's using your shingles. But this is actually a test build that I had sent to Greg and said, Greg, I'm not real happy with the way that this thing is looking, because it looks like it's supposed to be broken like that. How do we make it look like, it's actually a broken bridge? Because my mind is a little weird in that I wanted to do a covered bridge, and I had actually seen a picture of a pedestrian bridge that I thought was kind of neat. It was probably about half the size of this one. And then at the same time, I was seeing a lot of pictures of the slope back railroad car that John Allen had done. And I was like, something weird inside my brain clicked, and I decided to put it together and see what happened. And Greg has worked miracles, and I think he's made it successful. I think we broke the bridge.
Well, I really think
Really cool.
I'm going to put a little diorama together where it's just going over a little creek. And I think once it's actually suspended over something, that slope in it will really look appropriate for something that's starting to fall down.
Yeah, I think Greg's version came out, I know it came out actually a lot better than mine did. Or a lot worse, depending on your perspective. Because mine, it looks purposeful. His, it looks like it's had some damage. It's had a rough life, and that's exactly what it should be going for. So
this stuff is fun. One of the most fun builds I had was a barn that Medford Trains had come out with that I built as falling apart and falling down, and that's so much fun.
It's a beautiful structure. It really is.
yeah, I've been debating whether I should try to sell it, but I think after seeing what Greg was able to do with it, I think there might be a market for it.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, it's something very unusual.
Yeah.
So did you end up using both?
It's real easy to build. You just have to make it clear that they can't build a good bridge out of it because the frame itself is already sway back.
Yeah. Yeah. So did you end up using both sheets of roofing?
1.5.
Oh, okay. All right, because that was one of the issues I had with an earlier kit was I had it was actually Bush's Mill. I sent out the kit, and the guy built it up, and then he put like a black tar paper roof over half of it. I'm like, what's going on here? And he's like, oh, well, there wasn't enough shingles in the kit. I'm like, well, you could have told me that so I could fix it. So anyway.
Chris, I'm happy to cut as many shingles as you want.
Oh, that's great.
No, and everything there is what came in the kit, except for the stain.
Right.
Well, the stain is absolutely magnificent.
Really
Well,
is.
I found a number of pictures of old bridges where the wood was so soaked and saturated it was black, and that's where you started having pieces falling off. So I was going for that kind of look.
I tell you, the staining to me is an awful lot that helps carry the theme through for that structure.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, the holes and the stains, that's what makes it look like it's broken and it tells a story.
Yeah, exactly. Because if the stain isn't really perfect on it, it's not going to have the same kind of appeal, I don't think.
Right. Because I probably have pictures of the version I did, and they don't look anywhere near as good as this.
Even the way you stain the roof and so forth coming from the holes at the top of it, that's just really beautiful modeling.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, the cedar shingles that Stephen supplies with this are really nice, except they look so nice and new, and it's not difficult to make them look old, but I really had to make them look old for it to look right on this.
Well, what I'm wondering is there a way to, I think I tried it once, to bleach them, to bleach the shingles so that you can make them look sun bleached. Because I think that's what's missing, is if you look, it's still pretty like a tan color, tan brownish.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to stain it,
You need some dry brushing on that roof.
Yeah, right now it just has, I did some dark dry brushing to kind of get rid of the shine, and then I did some chalk powders, but I haven't hit it with the white for the highlights yet. But Stephen, you can tell is all of the color and texture just from the wood on those shingles?
Yes.
That's some nice wood. I mean, really, I was looking at that.
Yeah, it sure
It has
is.
really nice fine grain in it.
Yeah,
really cool.
That's.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say I hadn't offered the real wood shingles an HO scale because I couldn't find a wood that was thin enough.
Mm-hmm.
And then Walt at Rusty Stumps turned me on to his supplier when I bought the Rusty Stumps business, and yeah, they had some thin wood veneer that was thin enough for me to offer him an HO scale.
Uh-huh.
But I have like 8 different wood veneers that I offer in O scale for real wood shingles, roofing shingles,
Mm-hmm.
but just the one style in HO scale, but a little bit thinner.
Your shingles that you offer in O scale, they're individual shingles or strips or?
They're strips.
Strips, okay.
And I offer 8 different styles of wood, like red oak and white oak and cedar, and I don't know, I don't remember what they all are. I suppose I could find them on my website.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you can see this very well, but this is what's left of the cedar shakes for that kit. So they came in strips, laser
I
cut.
got you. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and they actually bend fairly easily, so it
Yeah.
makes of course they break easily too.
Yes.
But they bend fairly easily, so I had laser cut marks on each side and in the middle, and so it gives you an area of something to aim for, and you can kind of bend it a little bit so it works out.
That's a pedestrian bridge, you said?
Yes.
They have
Hey, Chris,
something like
if
that?
you wanna, go ahead, Jim.
They have something like that for a railroad bridge?
I imagine it wouldn't be too hard to scale up and make for a railroad bridge, but
I think that would be awfully unusual for people that, model the time period and so forth.
yeah, but I'm not sure you'd want to make it a slope back bridge like that, but it's possible, I guess.
Hey, Jim, I did a covered bridge project for an O scaler a couple years back. It's a 48-inch long covered bridge for vehicle traffic with a pedestrian walkway along the side. My idea was to offer it as a 24-inch length instead of a 48-inch length as a kit, but
Yep.
just never got around to it. But it's, you know, it's not a rundown bridge like this. It's, you know, it's a well-built structure that still is serving its purpose. I don't have any pictures of it with me here, though.
I think that'd be a beautiful model.
Yeah,
Absolutely
it's all
beautiful.
made out of plywood. It's all plywood structure.
Yeah.
Again, I did it as a custom project for a guy up in Massachusetts. Hey, Chris, if you want to let me take screen control, I'll show these O-scale shingles.
Sure, go ahead. I
Yeah,
don't
you
think
gotta
there's
release
anything I
the
have to do I?
control. Yeah, you have to release control
Oh, I do. Okay.
up at the top.
All right.
All right, and now I can. So now on the website, I'm showing the O-scale roof shingles, and you can see an example of the
Oh, yeah.
application. And then here's the different colors, different wood materials that I have available. And I've got, I don't know, 4 different styles of shingles, a straight cut shake, a random cut shake, and then I offer them in 2 different exposure lengths for a short version and a long version.
How thick is the wood, Steve?
Should say up here, let's see. I think it's 22 thousandths. Yeah, 20 thousandths.
Okay.
Wait, no, that's not right. But I think that is, I don't know, I may not even have it listed here, but it is approximately, yeah, there it is, 22 thousandths.
Yeah, okay. That's very
Yeah,
nice.
these are a bit fragile, but if you take your time with them, they go on pretty well.
Yeah.
I imagine
So
they
Chris,
go on
you use
easier
the HO
straight
scale
than
one.
when you're trying to curve them.
How did you do the curve?
Very carefully.
Well, like you said, they would curve pretty easily, but then they would also break easily. So probably about 1/10 of the roof has a shingle strip all the way across its one piece. The rest of them are pieces.
Yeah. That's beautiful. It really is.
Yeah, I might have, because I didn't complete the other side. Let me see. I might have the other side. Hang on.
You know, I don't know about everybody else, but that kind of unusual model, that's, at least at my age, that's the kind of thing that really appeals to me.
Yeah, well, that's what
Yeah, that's,
Chris was wondering, whether there would be a market for it or not. And I told him, I think, you know, if you can make it look like it's actually falling apart instead of kind of whimsical, yeah, there could be a market for it.
I think so too, because let's face it, a lot of us, you know, we pretty well built bridges.
Yeah.
So you build one, you've built them all, you know, basically. It's something like this comes along and it really catches your opinion, and it's not something that you've seen on 20,000 layouts around the country, you know?
Well, like with most other things, I do research before I build something, and it was actually a lot of fun looking for old, dilapidated covered bridges, because there's lots of photos out there. People love taking photos of covered bridges, and you start seeing some things in common, like where the roofs start to fall through, and it's where you start getting the siding falling off and stuff. And most of the ones that are losing some of the siding and stuff, showing the internal bracing, it's almost like seeing a building that's falling apart. And, you know, who doesn't love seeing that?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I do have the one side that I didn't complete. Hopefully you can see this, but you'll notice that there is no, it's not continuous all the way across. There's a lot of little breaks. I was able to curve some of it, but some of the curve is actually caused by the shingles breaking, and it worked out. So hey,
Probably added to the charm.
yeah,
That's a nice bridge. It really is something very different and creative.
yeah. Thanks. We'll see what we can do to get that thing going. But, I've got another project for Greg to that I sent him. Hopefully he
Oh,
can.
Yeah,
Hopefully you
I've
can
got that
tackle
one
that
next.
Yep, that one is that's a neat little building that I just saw a picture of it on the internet, and it's just such a tiny little building, and I started getting into it, and then I don't know if anybody, I know Steve knows Mark Schreier. I think probably Greg does too. But Mark showed me Taskboard, and I got to using Taskboard, and it was like, oh, this is interesting. It's some weird stuff, but I think as long as we can keep it within certain parameters, it's gonna be neat. So I'll see if I can find pictures of that building real quick.
You said it was in Armenia or something?
I think so. Yeah, it's somewhere in Eastern Europe. I found one picture and possibly a second.
What is Taskboard?
Taskboard, it's like this. The stuff I have is it actually comes in 3 different depths, thicknesses, I should say. But
Like a pressed paper.
yeah, they boast it as being a renewable resource. Thing is, you have to be very deliberate with it. You have to use a very sharp knife, otherwise it's toast.
It's tears.
It tears like I don't know, like wet paper.
Yeah.
What do you use it for?
This is the application on this. It's going to be like a stucco.
Oh,
It
okay.
simulates
Yeah,
the
because it
stucco
has
surface
that
very, very
finish.
well.
Yep.
Huh.
So
You know, it's
here's
almost like a grainy finish.
Where do you buy it?
what's that? Oh, taskboard.com.
Taskboard.com. Okay.
There it is.
So here's the original picture. Here's what I went from, and I will go into here and pull this out. But I think let's see what it's showing you guys. Yep, here it is. But this next version is going to be a little bit different in this, and that like up here around the steeple, it's going to be a little bit different. It's actually going to be square instead of rectangular. Unfortunately, I think the one that I sent Greg doesn't have the cross in the middle because I on the version I sent him, I screwed that up. So I'll fix it. But I think it's going to be a neat little project for people. It is really tiny. It's probably like 2 or 3 inches square.
Well, I was thinking it's almost more like a little side of the road confessional or something.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be neat if we could find a way to put stained glass in it.
Well, I heard somebody talking about using, they were building a church. It might have been something Craig was building. And there's that material, it's not glazer glass, but
Gallery
gallery
glass. Great.
glass. You can get it in colors as well.
Yeah, let's take a look
It's
at that.
it's intended to be used to simulate stained glass windows.
Yeah.
Except Michael's and Hobby Lobby and whatnot.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
that would work good on something like this.
Yeah, I've seen where some people have used like slides that were actually pictures of stained glass, that sort of thing. I don't know. I tried those sun catcher, those little plastic sun catcher kits. I tried some of that stuff and it just came out way too thick and just didn't look very good.
Of course, doing anything like that will be beneficial if you light up the inside.
Yeah. All right, so So we have a way forward. Sounds like we want to continue this. Took a little diversion here, but I think everybody's had a decent time at it. Hopefully we're doing something a little bit different here that, it's not just the third Zoom meeting that you've been to this week or whatever. It's a little bit different, and we'll try to do this about once a month. So does that sound good with everybody? And we'll try to hopefully do the same format. By the sounds of it, I mean, what we're really concerned with is that 40-minute rule that's out there, and we busted through that. We're at an hour and 40 minutes now, so.
You can't count on it. It's very inconsistent who they let go beyond 40 minutes and who they don't.
Huh.
Yeah, it seems to do with their network traffic, whether they are kind of overloaded or not.
Oh, okay.
I have to host our own model railroad clubs, and after the first time when we got cut off short, I went ahead and got a pro account just so we can go for 24 hours if we need to. And we've been having our meetings every other week for the last 3 months now.
What did that cost you, if you don't mind me asking?
It was $14.99 a month. And we thought, well, we'll do it monthly because within about 6 months, we should be able to get together for our regular meetings. But then after the second month, they offered me a discount on the yearly price. Instead of $149, it came down to $99. And we said, well, our treasury can afford that. So we have a yearly account now.
Yeah.
All right, so maybe that's something we ought to look into. Just that way our bases are covered.
Hey,
So
you can write it off
$100 a
your
year.
taxes.
What's that?
You can write it off your taxes as a business.
Oh yeah. Yep. Make it as a business expense. That would work. My oldest here running around.
Well, Chris, I want to thank you for putting this together, and Jim and Steve, I want to thank you for being guests. It's always interesting listening to other modelers. I can't think of a single time that I haven't listened to some and picked up tips, and if I'm lucky, I remembered them the next week.
So thank you so very much. See you all later.
All right. Thanks everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Chris, for putting it together.
Good seeing
See
everyone.
y'all.
Excellent work, Chris.
Thank you.
See you, Dylan.
All right, see you.
Thanks for the help, Dylan.
You're welcome.